Okay.
No joke.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Hey, Jeff.
Hey.
Hey. Do you need to sit here?
I'll just go there.
Yeah. I'm trying to get some corn off yet, so.
Oh, Stephanie,
Hello,
how are you?
I'm good. Just quietly went over here.
I'm sitting in the shade.
Try something new. Be quiet. Hello.
Oh, thank you. Why don't I take it up over on that? I look like I should have in the first place.
Okay.
But
Hi, you want to I can move here. Sit by each other. Yeah, no problem at all.
I mean, I was sitting by
You know, move your chairs down. Let me put something.
Oh.
Thank you. Yeah, that's plenty good. Just right underneath me.
Just for here, till we're done all, or what? We'll just get the extension and tell them where to pick them up. That's what it is.
Hello.
made it.
Oh, yeah.
Corn on?
No.
Just shut us off. Where's that?
That's where we're going to. We're hitting them both actually. Plus the payment, 26, special one or two.
Who was that?
Plus the,
Who was that, okay?
Forward?
Forward?
Yeah. You were actually picking right next to the club the other day, and you drove right by, went that way.
Okay, I will call the regular meeting of the Dodge County Highway Committee to order at 4:01. Our members are present. And we don't have any board members, other board members here. Public comments, first off, David and Amanda from AIRS. I would like to say a few words to us here this afternoon.
Thank you very much, Jeff.
Gotcha.
Dave Ponsloff, Amanda Inman, you know some of the basics here. We've been providing mostly bridge design services here. And we look back 7 years ago and we did county control. There's a picture here, this one right here, for the Gulf PGA or
Yep.
Open or whatever, I'm not a golfer. But the most recent, and we've worked with quite a few of the towns, our most recent project right now is coming from NP, which will be bid in January, and it's being bundled with the town of Hubbard.
A year from January.
Pardon me?
A year from January.
A year from January?
Yep.
Okay, so we got a ways to go yet. 1 year from January. But maybe you wanted to say a few words about that project in terms of, you told us what the schedule is, it's a year later than I thought, but the cost, there is inflation going on with all these projects now. But I heard that it's really, really tapering off now. There's plenty of 80/20 bridge money available to go through the change management process.
Yep.
So if bids come in high, there's at least 80% money for that. But just wanted to say, you want to tell us maybe what the cost figure is? These bridges are expensive.
Yeah, we were just, what were we saying, 550, 560, construction, thousand, construction cost. That doesn't include the 15% E&C. So we are over the funding limit right now, but we are intending to ask for change management. Well, that'll get more refined as we go through the process too, but we'll be requesting change management if we're over that funding limit.
And those requests are honored.
They have been, yeah, we haven't had much trouble with those lately, so. And we've been coordinating on the driveway, there's driveway access right there, so we're wrapping the guardrail around, so they can keep their access where it is.
So, yeah, then your next one is County Trunk N, a mile downstream, that's also a deficient bridge. Same Butler Creek, same one, so. At any rate, let you guys get on with your meeting. Just want to say thank you for your confidence in your associates over the years here with all the bridges. We counted them up, there's probably a dozen that we've done in the last 7 years here.
Very successfully
Yeah.
and seamlessly, I might add.
Yeah, good.
One I travel over that you did for us a couple of years ago was the Bobolink Road Bridge over the
Yeah.
CP Railroad.
Yeah.
That was
was
a
a
challenging
challenging
project
project.
and an expensive project. We got
Got
there.
it done?
We just went out to look at the other one, Well Road,
Okay.
up in the marsh up there by G.
Yeah.
So that one will be a lot.
Yep. A little more straightforward, but yeah, that one turned out well. as well
Railroad's
said.
in the pipeline now?
Yes.
Yeah,
And that's
we're-
gonna be piggyback bundled, that's the buzzword now, bundling, like your NP project is bundled with Wildcat Road covered. That Well Road project in Lowell is being bundled with St. Helena Road, or Helena, again,
Yeah.
for the town of Eustis, for Dave.
Good, good.
City.
Good.
So that's the key now. We just, next Tuesday, Lafayette County is gonna have a couple of bundled ones. Last year we had a couple in Cottage Grove that were bundled.
Yeah, we
That
did.
bundling, the contractors like
We
that.
did that on
Creates
us.
efficiencies.
Yeah, the S's were
We
bundled.
did on us, that was when bundling was new.
That's right, the two
Yeah.
S's.
Yeah.
That's right. Those were one of our Calamus
Pilot
and Beaver Dam.
bundlers.
Yeah.
That's right. Before bundling was a word.
Yeah, sure.
So, anyway,
Before it was cool.
Yeah, right.
So anyway, we did a drop off previously because we didn't know we were gonna be here tonight. There's some pocket calendars, a couple different kinds. Looks like some nuts, and I didn't give you anything to write in the books with, so I was able to scrounge up a couple of pens in the car that I can leave as well. Just want to wish you guys all a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year and a great 23.
I'm Stephanie Justman, a purchasing agent for Dodge County. Just wondering if you have a business card.
Sure, we're required.
Dave never leaves home without them.
Here you
No,
go.
I had some
Thank you
too.
very much.
Thanks. Yep.
Okay, well, enjoy your meeting.
Thanks for
Thanks for
stopping.
your time.
Happy holidays
Happy
to you.
holidays.
Yeah, it was good to see you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Any other public comments?
I don't have nothing.
Next time, approve the minutes of the November 3rd, 2022 meeting. Everybody have a chance to take a peek at those? Any additions or corrections? Okay, John, Rob. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Minutes are approved. Superintendent reports. Who's gonna go first? Don't know, stand up.
Yeah, right. You wanna start with the online? This is
Sure,
the
let's do
last
it. Nathan, you wanna start with the gravel seal projects?
Pictures of the movie.
Probably movie first, then the pictures, I guess. Sure, where's that?
Rotary on.
Yeah, BB, sorry, Jesus. BB. This year we switched to gravel seal. We had been using onyx seal product from Miggs. We had found that was pretty slippery. So this year we went with G asphalt, product called gravel seal. Basically, it's the same concept as onyx, only it's done in one step. And on the back of the box there, you'll see in the back of the truck there, blasting it's like a black beauty, black slag on top. I guess the long and the short of it, we like the product. I guess we're kind of up in the air on it. It still does seem to have traction issues if it's not applied right. I still think they need to go up with more or a larger size aggregate on top of it. So we'll see what happens. Then we have the,
You wanna see the map?
yeah, that has our chip seal on everything else right on the same map.
There it is. Yeah, let's do it like this.
I can't see it.
So Ravel Seal roads are in blue. You guys can see where they're kind of spread out across the county there. That was what you guys just saw in the movie, was the Ravel Seal. So basically the blue roads are the ones that we did with the Ravel Seal. But chip seal, again, the guys will talk about kind of resurfacing and that work are the other colors up there. So we'll probably flash this map a couple more times as we go along, but.
Some of the differences are the Ravel Seal aggregate applied over the top of that application you just saw. Truck behind it spreads the aggregate on top. The product we were using prior to this had the aggregate mixed right into the oil. So when they applied it, the aggregate was already there. And it took 2 applications plus cure time for that Onyx product, which served us well. But we had slippery problems up on AW, which we've talked about here a number of times. Again, I think it's all in the application, properly applied, not a problem. Something goes wrong, too much oil, not enough aggregate, something like that, and then we have slippery problems. We had that up on AW, top of the map. This year we applied a more conventional chip seal to that AW. A, to address that slipperiness, and B, we started to see some premature cracking in the pavement on AW. AW is not our standard pavement spec, because we did that in cooperation with all the other counties along there. We used Fond du Lac County's pavement spec and paving crew. I'm not saying it's bad work, but it's not the same as what we spec on our roads. So we saw some minor cracking starting up there, and we had slippery conditions. So AW got a chip seal this year on top of that Onyx that was 2 or 3 years old.
Yeah, I think it was
Four,
done in
maybe?
2020, because that was my first year.
2020? Okay.
Now, Highway I,
Highway I is in blue on there.
and that one is also having traction issues.
Well, I've heard it from our drivers. The only person I've heard it from. I've gotten secondhand reports from Carteshner. But nobody's called here to say, yeah, your road is slippery. So there's concern, but I'm not gonna say it's on the end. I've gone up there, I've seen it, I photographed it. Again, all those roads in blue have that same treatment, and that's the only one we've gotten a call on. So we're watching it, but I don't think it's an emergency. We'll go through a plow season and see how it is in spring. We want to continue to use the product, but we also need to police it and make sure it's applied correctly so we don't have a slippery condition. And that's where we are right now. The other roads there in orange got the chip seal. And Joe, maybe you want to elaborate on like Highway R or DJ, how you chose them and why they got that treatment.
Well, both R and DJ have been done prior. In fact, on sections of R, this is actually the 3rd chip seal that's gone down on it. There wasn't a whole lot of tenting on the roads. They're all kind of good candidates. Crack fill them ahead of time, and they'll last for another 7, 8 years before you got to do something.
Yeah, ours like 20 years old. Still worthy of that preservation treatment. So I think we're doing something right by continuing to seal them.
Now, this year with the chip seal, Nathan has the videos on it, but on top of the chip seal this year, part of it was because the MIGs gave us a credit, I guess you'd say, for slipperiness on AW. We were able to do the fog seal over top for a reduced rate, which I think it looks great. It looks black now. It won't look so black after it's been plowed on a season, but it definitely holds the chips in.
That's on R, Joe. They put their fog seal.
Yep.
Yeah, all the
orange
they got a chip seal and the fog seal.
Yeah.
So all the orange ones have both of those.
You want to show them a video of the?
Yeah, sure.
that?
Yeah, so the chip seal, we'll do the in order here. Chip seal video. The oil going down.
This is AW. You can see that pavement and that sealer. And I was putting the chip seal over it.
Do it one more time if you want.
Chip spreader's not behind, well, chip spreader's back there.
See
but
the-
don't
see the
see
house
it.
thing back there.
See the fog.
It's put down at 100, roughly 170 degrees.
And here come the chips.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was talking
Yeah.
with Eric from Green Lake County. That's Green Lake County's chip spreader that we were using here, so. It's a different experience when you're being pulled in reverse in a truck.
So, they're flipping right along too.
Yeah, they move right along.
That's one thing our guys really excel at, and they enjoy doing it. Makes us say that we're one of the quickest ones to do it, and I don't know,
Yeah.
just everything is dialed in right, and they go,
They like coming here, they never have to wait on us. They don't have that same cooperation with other agencies there. So, of course, they say we. And then behind the chip spreader are rollers. Roll that down and embed it into the oil, and then the fog seal happens. After you sweep off the excess, then the fog seal.
So we have a fog seal.
Look at the list, there it is.
When they first apply it like that, that's put down at 120 degrees Fahrenheit. It's got a brown hue to it, but as it dries, once it is fully dry, it is jet black.
It looks like they shadow it. So what is the fog
Yeah.
seal do?
It fills in the matrix, the aggregate lays on the top.
Yeah, so it's still-
Partially embedded in, it fills all the matrices in between, so you're basically locking that matrix in so that seal is gonna last longer than had you not fogged it.
Makes it black again, so
Yeah.
the sun gets at it, it's nice and small.
When the paper mark nearly stands out too, like black.
That contrast between the black and white and yellow is.
How long does that have to cure before you can stripe it, then again?
I think next day.
Yeah, we paint it the next day. You can drive on it, like, depending on weather conditions. I mean, you can drive on it in, if it was good conditions, a couple hours.
I think that's it for chip seal on that.
See, get that map back off there if you want.
The other thing I can talk about is the brine. Everyone wants to know, what are we doing with the brine? God, you guys got hydrochloric acid and stuff, and it's equally in my car and everything else going on. We've been doing it now, I think this is our seventh season that we've been working with the brine. Our standard blend is we do a 10% beet heat with 90% brine. And in the beet heat, gosh, I don't even know what's all in there. But it does lower the temperature of it a little bit. One, it helps protect our pumps and all of our storage units for it, and on the trucks itself. And it does have a little anti-corrosion property in it. You know, when you're dumping tons and tons of salt and you got that, and it is what it is, but it is much better.
So we make your own brine?
Yes.
You don't buy like byproduct from the cheese company that already has brine?
Well,
We did look into that once, and they, with specialty cheese in resale, actually. And
They gotta get rid of it.
yeah, but the salt in it is not high enough for what we need it to be. So
And
it's,
our need is seasonal, their need is every day. They're not gonna have tanks to store that all year long. I do have a possibility of a very reliable source of brine that they will make to our standard. And endless supply when we want it at Van Holten Pickle Factory. They generate that stuff and they contacted us and said, what do you use, how do you use it, what's your salination percentage and what are your needs? And so we sent them our specs and we can do this. We can do this and we can
You guys would be able to really get rid of it.
provide what, what you need seasonally, and that's not a problem. So they're in the process of redesigning and revamping their process down there, and when they get to that point, maybe a year from now, we could be getting product from them at no cost. We'd have to transport.
Right,
So that's a promising,
but it's a win-win.
that's a promising arrangement if it comes.
They have to get rid of it anyways, and they pay us for it, so they might as well just give it to us.
Right. So we'll see.
So the roads smell like pickles, then.
Right.
Well, you asked them about their filtering process, and it's quite an extensive,
Yeah.
way past, that was the other problem with the cheese product, that there was some organic material in it that probably wasn't good for our tanks.
Right, plug their nozzles and everything.
So there's no contaminants in it that you
Oh, well, we would double check with DNR and whomever, but it sounds like they're right on top of their game, and their raw product has higher salt content than what we need, so they'd actually, reduce it to what we can tolerate out on the roads, and their filtering process is finer than what our equipment needs. So, if it comes to fruition, I think it'd be very helpful for everybody, then all we'd have to do is pick it up and transport it around to our sites. We'll blend in our beet heat and some of our things like that, but, yeah, that could help.
We transport it. I mean, we make it all here, right, and transport it.
We make it down on Highway L at the South
No,
County
I mean the
line.
stuff we're using now.
Yeah,
Okay.
so we transport it all for the South County line already.
Right. So
That's
we're already
really not a lot.
transporting it, so transporting costs really isn't gonna
It's slightly more to go to Waterloo.
be. Right.
We don't, because long-term here, we've always considered having a bigger, more custom, ability to do custom blending up here in Juneau. We looked at a facility, we looked at tanks, we looked at, a big brine maker here in Juneau so that we could make our own and custom blend things and adjust to the weather and so on and so forth. But that's a big capital outlay. And we've always pushed it down the road, We've even had it in the budget, declined spending it and turned it over, rolled it over and bought other things with it in future years as part of our budgeting process. And I'm really glad we did know, because it's ever changing. And if we can arrange an agreement long-term agreement with them, we may never need to spend that money. The brine maker we have now is DOT owned, and it's small and it's limited in its abilities. It's functional, but it's not the answer long-term, and that's probably 7 years old.
That's just, yeah.
Yeah.
I think the first year we purchased it outside sources, and the second year we had a brine machine.
Yeah, so, if we can consummate that deal, we can improve the position without spending a lot of capital money. We'll keep you informed. It's going to depend on them and their progress, but.
Last year, we laid down a little 200,000 gallons of the brine. This year with the 3 state trucks around there, they're able to haul 900 gallons on. We're seeing our guys are dropping a lot more brine, and where they'd use, 15, 17 ton of salt a day, or 30 ton of salt, or something like that, they're cutting that way down because they're just dumping so much more brine.
And weather like this, what we had Tuesday night, Wednesday, temperatures up, brine's very effective. Very effective, safe salt in these kinds of conditions pretty easily.
And how, with the temperature after fall, below before the brine really doesn't affect?
I would tell you it's probably 20 or 18 degrees. Some guys will tell you it's 15. Jefferson County will tell you they spray at 0 degrees. Don't work. It don't work. The best part of the brine, tell me if I'm wrong or not, but I think the best part of the whole brine thing is when you're applying it with the salt, that it's got something for salt to stick to the road and start working. We do some long line ahead of the storm, but honestly, you're putting 23 gallons on per square yard, per yard. I mean, it's not a lot.
Because salt only works up to minus what, 16 or something?
Right. But I think our best benefit is that on these trucks here is when we're using it in conjunction with our salt, to get the salt to stick to the road, to stay on the road, and start working. We've had pretty good luck with it.
And that's the benefit of the beet heat too, because it makes it stickier. It's beet molasses, you know, if you remember when we first started, Jeff, you would remember this, when we first started in this, we were using a beet juice product, and that we had trouble with because there were too many solids in it. So it was plug in the filters, plug in the nozzles, plug it everywhere. But the beet molasses works pretty well.
You're right, that's the biggest thing, that the salt doesn't, bounce off of the road, it stays stuck to the road, and it works.
Then it freezes at a lower temperature, so it protects our equipment. And the anti-corrosion factor, so. Turned out to be a pretty good blend for us in most cases. But as the limits, turns out that 18 to 20 degrees and just go with the salt then. You're still dumping water on the road. If it lays out there and dilutes a little bit too much, it refreezes, and then we've made it worse. So we're going to stop using it when we feel it's at that temperature, below that safe temperature range. So far, so we're at.
Further comments from the superintendent? Is anybody else got-
I got some stuff to do.
Oh, let's see. So, from a maintenance standpoint, this year, we did our typical things. We crack filled, we shouldered, we put in pipe, we mowed, we did a lot of the vegetation spraying that you guys saw that whole PowerPoint spiel before, but I won't steal Steve's thunder, but it was a heavy project year, so we maybe didn't do as much of those things because the guys you guys know how it is. We seemed like money last minute here in BIL and ARPA funds, and it was go, go, go on the project. So that was at the forefront this year. But we did have, we did the normal things, but we had a couple DMAs here, basically with the state, and let's see here where I want to go to. Yeah, I'm just thinking which one I want to do first here. So let's see what picture this is. Oh, well, we'll go to this one first. So anyways, we had a concrete DMA for 151 and State Highway 33 for $100,000. So, and the state let us go just a little bit over and above that. So they got their bang for their buck. We were efficient. We were doing 2 to 3 of these basically a day, pouring them with a high early concrete, so they needed 6 hours of cure time, and we were opening the lanes back up and people were driving on them, which is kind of crazy when you think about that. But here you can see it. The guys got real good and efficient at it. You can see the grade out digging out. Now that's a special bucket attachment that's specifically made for digging out concrete or asphalt slabs. It's a little different. And that skid loader, you can't really see it that well, but we have a concrete pecker on there, so he'd get a corner started and break it up a little bit, and away they go. But they got real efficient at that and quite enjoyed doing it.
This is a failed concrete joint blow-up?
Sure. This one happens to be on the 4-lane part of State Highway 33, right outside of Beaver Dam. Actually, as you look at this picture, 151 is directly behind you, the bridge going over the top.
It's Russ's cemetery over there.
Yep, correct. Here's simply a picture out on 151 as the guys have poured that slab back and are working on finishing it. We did have, that stuff has got calcium chloride in it and some accelerators, obviously to get it to cure for drive time in 6 hours, but I can tell you, it does not matter how much water you add to it. Once you get in the hole, you better be ready to finish it because it gets hard fast.
9 big makes.
Yeah, 9 big. It snaps.
Physically hot to touch.
Yes, you
It's
can
curing
feel,
that fast.
you can feel the heat on it, so you better have your A game, because it goes.
When you use that stuff, does that affect the longevity of it?
If anything, it's
I-
better,
Yeah.
because it's not big mix. It's a
PSI.
higher
Yep.
PSI
Higher
car.
PSI.
It's actually better than the rest of the road.
Sure.
But you got, like Nate said, you gotta get it down flat right now. It'll be a hump and a bump forever
Yeah.
if you don't.
Yep. So we actually had, used to be Dodge Concrete, Lycon. We did some pouring with them, and we did some pouring with Crew too, out of Horcon, so.
In addition to dig up
I
the
drove
truck.
an 80-day part that's north of 33. It's like a washboard.
Which ones? Sorry, what?
County 8.
On A.
33.
Oh, why is it? Is that what you're asking?
No, yeah, it's like a washboard.
There's no dowel bars in there.
That's the Fox Lake portion you're talking about, Dale.
Yep.
33
north,
to.
yeah.
That, north of that, 33.
Yes.
The sad story there, when that was poured, we did that, we consulted with the Concrete Pavement Association and got the standards, got the specs, got the recommendation, poured that, and we had a riding center. Who poured that?
Sig Dingle.
Sig Dingle. Thank you. Get them a lot. But we had a write incentive on it, they poured it, took the profilograph readings on it and got an A. It was poured perfectly. But it was poured over the old asphalt. The old asphalt was profile milled to a good smooth surface and poured over the top. And so the recommendation was the strength requirement isn't as significant as it would be on a gravel base. You don't need reinforcing in your joints. Common practice in the Concrete Pavement Association at that time. Okay, you cut the joints, but you don't have reinforcing joints in it. They poured it, they did a profilograph test on it, they got an A, they got paid incentive for the road. And later that season, when things got humid, that chop came along. Oh, what do we do? Brand new road, it rode great, and now it doesn't. Who's what, and what do we do? And we called the Concrete Pavement Association, they sent people out from the Madison office and their national office and engineers all over consulting on it. Said, well, what we think happened, the humidity, believe it or not, causes those slabs to cup slightly. It causes that skip at every joint. What do we do? What do we do? Do we mill that flat? When the humidity's gone and that lays back down, then you're gonna have the reverse problem. So it's a seasonal problem, and there's not a damn thing we can do about it.
I mean, the surface looks great.
Yeah,
It
oh,
rides like a.
They did a great
He is
job.
like- He has some of that too, doesn't it?
What is that?
E.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, coming out of Horcon?
Yeah,
That
not as
has
bad,
joints,
but
but that still has some joint chatter, which is always the risk and the criticism of concrete pavements.
Concrete.
But, yeah, that was a heartbreaker up there, because it was perfect when they finished it. And now, there's really not anything we can do in all practicality to take it out.
I was just thinking if we do A now on the other side of Fox Lake.
That'll have bars in it.
yeah. And a little thicker.
Well, like the rest of A, from 26 up to 33, that's all got bars in it. That ride's pretty nice. Well, up to 151, actually.
This was, I thought, that's not the picture I want. We did let's start from the bottom. Okay, so this was by no means a big project, but it took a lot of coordination. This is on 151, the railroad crossing. That's County Highway E that you see the bridge there in the background. There's a couple ponds there to the right. It took a lot of coordinating because we had to get lane closures in with the state. In this particular case, we had Kartechner out there with their mill. It was maybe, it varied a little bit, but I'll just say 150 feet of asphalt, 2.5 inches, I believe it was. We milled out both sides of the rail, north and southbound. There's actually 3 lanes there because there's the deacceleration lanes for the semis and the tankers and whatnot to stop. So we had lane shifts and everything. And then we paved it back. And then we also had the railroad there because, as you can see here, so here's the mill working way here. And we'll go to this picture. Okay, so the railroad was there too. I want this one actually. The problem, what started, the the old asphalt approaches there to the rail were very beat up. We were patching them constantly. There were potholes. They were a nightmare to maintain. The problem is, you see where the railroad there is pulling those concrete, I guess I'll call them an approach slab. There's basically big lag bolts that they take and they drill those concrete panels down into the wood ties below the surface, and then they pave up to them. Well, for many years it was just fine, and the same thing happened up at 26 or by 26 on 151 north of here. Those lag bolts in time, they snap. As the concrete or the pavement moves here a little bit, those panels, a semi would go over it and you could physically, or visually I should say, see those panels wobbling. And there's always a fear that they get hit the right way, they're gonna pop up. So they pull those outside panels to get rid of that problem. Then obviously we did the milling, we paved right up tight to the rail. They had their truck there, and then they just ran their truck crossways on the rail to make their grooves and whatnot. So again, railroad, ourselves, the state with the closures, and Kartechner milling. So this was a couple-day project, but it was, again, by no means a big project, but there was a lot going on there. Go back to this picture, you can see them pulling and working on it. And while they were working on one spot here, we're pouring asphalt there and blending it back and shifting lanes, and there was just a lot of bodies up there and a lot going on. So that was something kind of different. 151 actually has, I want to say it's in 2026. They're working on it right now, but this will get redone again. But the state, you guys know how south of Beaver Dam they did all the asphalt and everything. Originally they wanted to continue that on and go up to Waupun, their State Highway 49. Then they cut out the asphalt and they're going to do concrete base patching. They'll call it wherever there's a crack, wherever there's any kind of a bump, saw it out, pave it back. They are going to do all new asphalt shoulders, because those are all, they're sunk down low, cracked up, they're junk. So that's where they are right now. They would redo this crossing as well as the one up on, or near 26, I should say, north of here. So that was supposed to be in 28, and they have fast forwarded it to 26, I believe it is now. So fingers crossed, because they give us, it's probably been 3 or 4 years in a row now, they've given us special DMA money to do concrete fixes out there, because it never ends. Every year we're pretty much treading water with what's bad out there, and then you get blow-ups come summer, and you might even get behind, so it's never ending work. But I guess we'll kind of see what comes of that. And with new asphalt also, I don't have a picture of this, but with new asphalt, the stuff that we were just talking about down on south of Beaver Dam to Columbus is 2 years old, so the state wanted us to crack fill that. So we did. They gave us, that was a pot, a DMA, separate money for $140,000. And that was a lot of work. We did a big handful of that in the spring when the temperature was right. Then got busy on our projects, let it sit over summer, and then this fall we finished up the rest of it. So we got it all done and stayed within their budget, but we spent just about all that $140,000. So that was nice, but that takes an army of guys to crack fill it, all the crew members, the traffic control for the lane shifts and everything. I think it was either 16 or 17 guys out there, and it was a lot. So that's the good and the bad of when you get new pavement like that, because crack filling is shortly there behind, and that's a big animal on 151. So we'll see if that concrete.
I did that.
Yeah. What's that?
I did that.
The crack filling you're saying?
41
Oh.
from county line to county line up.
Yep. Yeah, it takes a lot, especially if you want to do it right.
Everybody's a fucking idiot that drives on the road.
Yeah, it doesn't help, especially out there on the four lane. I mean, we'd have our signs up and try and slow them down, and there were days I would call our sheriff's department and say, hey, we're going to be out here today, because we can have all the flashing lights in the world, but nothing does better than a cop sitting out there. He's just sitting idle. And that would help. Some days they were able to go out there, and some days obviously they had different things going on. They can't. Some days they'd go out there and they could write tickets all day long for speeding in construction zones. But it's an eye opener when you're working right here in this lane, and literally there's speed from you, and semis are going past you at 70 if they want to. It's I get very uneasy when we have to do work out there, but
Yes, it is.
Never turn your back on it.
you can't. I tell the guys all the time, don't ever, you know, we all get complacent and used to, I tell the guy, you know, we're around backup alarms all the time. You start to not hear them after a while because they're everywhere, right? You're so used to it, but I tell them all the time, especially our new guys, don't, you just said it, don't ever turn your back, don't ever trust that car. You know, when we do concrete and those guys, you saw that picture, they're down on their hands and knees finishing, you can't see it in the picture, but there's always one guy standing right behind our guys, and his job, he stands and he just watches down the road, and if a semi or someone's coming that's hugging the line or maybe not getting over, God forbid, he yells or he grabs the guy by the scruff of his neck and pulls him back. That's his one job, because you can't trust him. So, yeah, enough of that. So,
Well, another challenge, that crack fill crew, that's a rolling closure, so you can't put big tapers and rumble strips and things out that you could maybe with some of these more stationary operations.
Right.
Those rolling closures are really hard to provide the advance warning and get people channelized over into the other lane.
when we have a stationary or a solid closure like the concrete that sits there for the day, we can drop the speed limit, and we do down from 65 to 55. We put the proper signage out, blah, blah, blah. You know, the sheriff's department can even enforce it then if they want, but on a rolling closure, you can't do that. So you can, we put all the signs out we can and everything, and a lot of people will slow down, but there are ones that don't, so. Okay.
Yeah, that's me. I don't have any slides for you guys today.
No pictures.
I think I brought enough truck slides in last time. I spent 2 hours on that. I think I can straight to the point. Shop 2022, I mean, this is more of a year-round thing for me. These guys, we have different seasons and it rotates for what we work on, but I'm proud to say that we were fully staffed for mechanics and welders for 2022. We had all the same guys all year. It was good. I mean, we were short one guy in 21 for most of the year. Hired a really good guy in August, and he stuck around, seems like he's gonna stick around.
How many trucks do we need to do yet to have the full beds that we've been putting on?
Full beds, what do you mean?
Will we make our own beds for our plow trucks? How many trucks do we have?
He's talking how many trucks do we have, chassis do we have in here that we're gonna set up?
Currently, there's 3 on the property and 1 more is being delivered first quarter of 23.
How many more we got left to do?
That's it, they
That's
just
it?
got here and we're setting up.
They just got here, they were just delivered.
They just
4
got here
weeks
and we're
ago.
setting up. It takes a year to get a truck.
And that's, the issue with that is, you used to be able to get trucks and you couldn't get plows and equipment and spreaders, and the building guys were behind. Now, those guys are caught up and trucks are a year up. So, you talk to the truck builder and they'll tell you that's what's holding them up more than anything, is that they can't get chassis. So, we hired a building maintenance tech in July 12th, 2022, so that fills all the shop positions. Like you just mentioned, 3 new plow trucks went into service in 2022. They went in just now, probably September, and we put 3 more in service just at the end of 21. There was a lag there, again, with being able to get equipment, with being able to get boxes, so the 20 model year trucks were held up a little bit. They got in service right before the winter of 21-22, and we just put 3 more in service right before, in September, for the winter of 22-23 year. Winter of 21-22, saw no long-term equipment in the shop. We had no long-term breakdowns of plow equipment. Proud of that, keeps the guys in the trucks, keeps the few spare trucks we have available for drivers, because there's always something. I'm not saying nothing broke down. We have, you know, I'm not saying we didn't have things break down that didn't have to come in off the road out of the, back into the shop.
But it wasn't like the old days where you're replacing frame rails and axles and cab, welding pieces and cabs and everything else to try to keep them going.
I mean, I think the most major thing we replaced last year was 1 hydraulic pump. You know, that's a tough job. It's where nobody wants to get into, but that might be the biggest repair we had for the season. Other than that, it's,
Yeah, and
you
that's
know.
a 4 or 5 hour job maybe.
Yep, hydraulic lines, motors, stuff like that, you get windshield wipers, lights. Yeah, we had no major breakdowns for the 2022 even for this summer, our paint truck stayed rolling all summer. We had no breakdowns with that. That was never out of service for a significant amount of time. I mean,
Yeah, I can tell you, as long as I've been here 17 years. We had never had winter equipment availability that we have now. There was always things in there waiting for parts, or, I mean, as far out as a frame of rail replacement, but there was always 2 or 3 patrol trucks in there, out of service, unavailable for the storm. That was the standard. We don't have that now. That's huge, because as we've told you before, we don't have spare trucks.
No, you just jinxed yourself, don't you, by talking about it?
Yeah, well. No, they're that good, we're okay. Between the staff and the trucks that we have today versus the stuff we had before, it's making a hell of a difference. It just is, and I want to give credit where credit is due. They're very proactive, they're out in front of it, they work on those plow trucks in the off-season, so at bow time, they're ready to go.
And the next thing I had on there, we have a ventilation upgrade that was in the 2023 budget that got approved. That's for the welding shop. Our welding shop is woefully stuffy and dirty when those guys are really going at it, so we have exhaust fans that we're gonna have installed. Nice if we could do something for the employees, and I put that up there too, because that's a lot of what we do is, I mean, that's for 2023, but a lot of that work goes in 2022, and a lot of the stuff that we accomplish in 2022, a lot of the legwork goes into it in 2021. I mean, these are giant plans, and you know, I mean, your projects are all thought out years in advance, and that goes for the shop as well, for purchasing, building trucks, building maintenance. We're started to in 21, or beginning of, late 21, beginning of 22, use CHEMS as our accounting program. That's what we have to use for the state. We don't have to use it, it's what we choose to use, and most of the counties in the state of Wisconsin use CHEMS as accounting. We've started to use that to track and log repairs to the vehicles and maintenance to reporting. It's not perfect, but it's good. And for us to use a third-party system, we already use 2 systems to track our stuff and pay our bills. So that's been a major uptake because everything has to be entered, the programs have to be built. A lot of work on the front end to make it easy on the back end. But when we get that complete information in, we'll actually be able to pull history reports on what was done to vehicles, what parts were put on, notes, service history. You'll be able to pull oil changes, make a list. I want to pull oil changes that were done on this truck, or annuals that were done on this truck over the course of years. We'll be able to pull that and actually have, I think, what is a backing history of stuff that goes on here. Actually had an insurance inspection review. The county partners with a private company. Obviously, they came walking through the shop, mostly the shop. Found very little, gave us some pointers, some updates that we rectified pretty quick. We had a couple outlets in the paint booth that needed to be spark arrested, that weren't. Took care of that, had that fixed, and then pretty much some mechanics in here, but a lot of flammable cans, brake cleaner. Everybody's got a can of brake cleaner on their box, so we incorporated some storage stuff out in the shop to have the mechanics put the flammables in cabinets, use them, put them back, kind of group usage rather than have 20 cans on their box, 20 different types of chemicals. If you use it daily, you can have it out. If you don't use it every day, by OSHA standard, it's supposed to be put. So, we've got 6 patrol trucks currently with green lights on. I was driving to Stoughton the other day and came up on a truck with a green light, a couple of them. That was, and it was foggy. That was Tuesday night. I was down there for the kids' hockey, but it was really foggy, kind of misty, crappy. You can really see that. That's, and you know it's a plow truck. That was really neat. So kind of really looking forward to having those 6. And as we move forward, we'll outfit them with a green light package that we just help develop and sent to the WCHA. WCHA. It actually was what we designed it to be a little bit cheaper than we were going with before, so that's good too. Not a ton, but $500 here, $500 there.
Just an aside on that, here a couple of weeks ago, the sheriff was on the radio, and he actually spoke about Dodge County's leadership in getting these green lights. You know, Brian and the WCHA, working with the legislature to change the statutes so we could use these green lights, because prior the statute didn't allow it. And that made local news for all, several days on leadership and Brian, the WCHA did to get this available to plow trucks throughout the state, so kudos to you guys.
DOT inspection, annual maintenance, we do it all in-house, which we should, but all 53 plow trucks come in over the summer and get annual, get inspection and get repaired. That's something that's been done here for quite a few years, but it hasn't always been done. And that's part of the reason why when we start the winter season here, that they're ready to go and we don't see a ton of stuff rolling back on shop. We still get stuff in, salters, we put salters on when it's time to, harness up for winter time. We have issues with that now here and again, but most stuff goes up and doesn't come back. And over the winter time, we do the same with the construction equipment and pickups. When we're using the plow trucks, we roll the other stuff in. Lay eyes on it. We've got 5 different shops that this stuff lays at. And if we don't bring it in and we don't look at it, some of the road guys are really good at writing their stuff up and knowing what they're looking at, and some of them are not. So they're not hired, them guys aren't hired here to be mechanics.
Do you ever think about doing that as contracted out to the other municipalities in the county, about inspecting their trucks? Because they have to, a lot of them have to go down to Milwaukee and inspect.
We never have talked about that.
I know Mayville, we always had to go way down to Menominee Falls, get the stuff done, and a lot of times you're on their schedule. It'd be just better for you to do it local, we don't.
We have not, we do work on some other local municipality stuff, out here. Oak Grove, thanks Steve. Oak Grove, we worked on their loader this summer.
I'm just saying, like the DOT inspection portion.
Yeah, we've not done that. We do some requested maintenance when we can help out, but we do not have anything contracted on a regular basis.
For the most part, you've got all you can kind of do to take care of your own, and then when during the construction season, I'm gonna help him with his next bullet, or down a bullet point there. Shop normally builds and repairs, but when we have everything out in the field, there's lots of times where we need them to send out a mechanic, and having a decent service truck now helps a lot with that. And so those guys are doing their best to keep us going too.
Yeah, while we're out there, thanks Steve, we appreciate that. I mean, we do repairs of equipment, but sometimes our fabrication shop, our welders will build stuff for road projects depending on what Steve needs. So our guys spend hours doing that too, and they bill their time accordingly, they bill it to the project. So, but it's kind of all hands on deck, whatever we need to do,
I built a piece for a bridge too.
Right, there's that, there's bridge repairs that need steel fabricated and drilled, and, our guys are pretty handy, and they can take care of that for us.
Service intervals have been extended on multiple types of equipment. We've extended the service intervals on the plow trucks to 500 hours. It was done probably at the end of 21, used to be 300 hours. Max recommendation is like 600 hours. The 500-hour mark puts us, for a lot of our equipment, at once a year. So kind of getting more than once a year is a little edgy to me. And it depends, some of them it's definitely more than that, some of the trucks we haul with, but, in the summertime, a lot of our trucks are used, but not all of them, and it always also depends on snowfall, right? If we get a really hard winter, it's significantly more than 500 hours. If we get a light winter, it can be less for certain trucks. Mower tractors were extended to 500 hours. Pickup trucks and vehicles are extended to 6,000 miles. We'd like to go farther than that. We found that we do a lot of low-speed operationally. We're not driving 60 miles an hour when we're out in the county, so the hours rack up a little bit more in miles. At some point, maybe we'll start tracking by hours, but not all of our equipment currently has hours. So then you would have to piecemeal, well, these 5 pieces of equipment are hours, and these are miles, and just not something looking to do. Housekeeping, we had 8 auctions in 2022 in 6 different months. 2 of them were with Dave Bell, and 6 of them were Wisconsin Surplus. That's getting rid of equipment, that's selling the pickup trucks I bring to you guys. This month we sold that old truck with the motor that blew up. Nothing fancy there, but we also sold them brooms. You guys remember, it seems like a lifetime ago, right? Everything runs together. Actually came to Brian and was like, I don't remember what the pristine 21 and 22 is. Like, it just hodgepodges together for me, but some of the stuff was worth significant value, some of the stuff was just junk we're trying to get rid of. We sell 55-gallon steel drums, there's no core on them anymore. Yeah, the metal people don't want them in the dumpster because they don't weigh anything and they take up a ton of space. We sell.
It makes a difference in square footage around here. Available area, you sell pallets of obsolete stuff, you sell barrels, you get it out of here.
It's easy to tuck away in a corner, forget
Nice.
about it, and stack it or put it in the back of the yard.
Yeah.
I don't,
Dump it off back there for what if someday, and it's got weeds 6 feet tall around it. Get it out.
and then when the barrels are rusty, crusty shot, nobody wants them anyway. You can't pay somebody to get rid of them. Other thing we did, especially Kyle, our building maintenance tech we hired, he's super handy. We built a new break room. For the mechanics, the break room used to coincide with the locker room, so they would change and such in the same place that they ate their lunch.
And we have a camera in there.
And well, that's something, this isn't so much super shop related, but more complete highway department related, but in 2022, I think we finally got up and implemented these TV screens at every shop where we scroll information, we scroll job numbers, we scroll updates, we scroll health insurance reminders,
Training sessions.
there's, so, but that screen ended up going in the locker room, and then we decided that it prompted us to build what turned out to be a really nice break room on something that we did completely in-house. Used a bunch of cabinets and materials that we got from across the street from physical facilities, from them cleaning out the lower, I don't remember, Brian, help me out.
It was a central services printing room that's no longer being used, so we repurposed what we could out of there, and that's fine.
Russ was very accommodating, and said, yeah, I want to get rid of it, take what you need, so we took cabinets, countertop, and so what I would consider on the cheap, we built a nice break room, and actually ran heat and AC into it, plumbed off with a current HVAC system, and ran a heat, so there's heat in the winter and AC in the summertime, so it's not really long. Floor's yours, Steve, unless there's.
All right. Well, there's some new faces. I haven't been in here for quite a while. There might be a reason for that, I guess, but I'm Steve Pett. I'm your operations superintendent. So I take care of highway projects. I also do some of the bridge work and the bridge deck sealing and stuff like that. I didn't elaborate too much in the bridge section this time. Maybe we'll save some of those pictures for another time. But these are some of the projects that we did this year. Not all of them, but we wanted to start out with Durkee Park. We did a bunch of work up there for parks this spring, and the guys kind of enjoyed that. And we kind of, if you're familiar with Durkee Park up there, we rearranged a whole bunch of the campsites and approved a bunch of the drainage. There was a real drainage problem there with water that would come out of this field and kind of run through here and across these campsites. You can't, it's kind of hard to see it here, but there is a little bit of a stormwater retention basin there before that water goes through this new culvert and down through the park. Go ahead, Nathan, and next slide.
Where's Durkee Park? Is that off of like CP?
CP, yeah, so on the northwest side of Beaver Dam Lake.
Yeah, I know where
Where are we? Right there. Yep. Okay, so yeah, all of the campsites, this maybe doesn't show real well, but the sites all kind of came square off the road. So kind of turn them into angle parking. So this is the road entrance coming in to make them a little bit more user friendly. And as you could, if you, I'm not a camper, but if you are and you've seen them, campers are not getting smaller. The trucks are getting bigger, the campers are getting bigger. Next slide. With that being said, where this loop of the roadway was, this piece in here was actually accommodated for the person that's a camp host up there. A longer drive-through site and a little more user-friendly. So some regrading. This water then kind of all sheds down through here. That culvert we replaced kind of comes through there and meanders through before it gets to the lake. This all lays relatively flat, but we wanted to leave it all vegetated. We didn't want to tear anything any more up than necessary. Don't send any more mud into the lake that finds its way there when it rains hard anyway. Next. A little bit better shot of, the feel and kind of where this came through. There was some berming done there a couple of years ago on the project by us, and then we did some more in change the sites. And so, crushed asphalt from the Trenton shop, when we crushed that pile of salvage asphalt there. That's what they use, that's what Parks kind of wanted to have. It's, you know, it gets nice and tight, works well for campers to sit on. Next. And there's another shot, here's the culvert, there's the ditch, heading to the lake. Next one. May 17th was when the County Highway M reconstruct project started. Now, our crews didn't have as much to do with that as myself, Nathan, and Tom Nails did with working with Michaels and doing inspection work and working with the landowners and things like that. So on that day, Interstate Tree, which was the contractor for Michaels that did the tree removal, moved in with their tree processor. So this slide here shows it pretty well. Big, huge blade, lots of horsepower, lots of noise, lots of wood chips. Get out of the way. So with a couple swings and a couple bites, they had all the trees down on that whole project in a matter of 2 days. Next slide. So this is here's a before shot. This is a very large diameter oak tree, 48 inches plus. Matter of about 20 minutes with that big processor to take that down. So I tried to work these next slides kind of all in the same spot. That's Herbert Kreutzinger's farm right there. Next one. There's what it looked like on that date, August 11th. So the project itself progressed very well up until that, you know, as we got closer from the start at JM, then they progressed to the north until we got to the tracks, and then I think you know what happened there. Next slide.
What happened there?
The railroad.
Delays with the railroad.
The permit?
The permitting.
Pave on there right away.
Yeah, yeah. So.
When did we apply for that permit anyway?
It was like
October of
18
21.
inches and, yeah.
I'm gonna say, yeah, it was fall of last year.
October of 21, we started that negotiation, if you will, application process.
Yeah. And at this point on that, so we had striped, Michaels was actually finishing up the shouldering, and there's what the new road looked like. And we were very close at that point to almost say, forget the railroad, we're gonna come to a screeching halt and tie into what was there.
Yeah, we'll put temporary binder surface through there
Yeah.
and finish it next year when the railroad gets around to it.
But, you know, all in all, that part of the project went pretty well. There are some incidentals that have to be finished up in the spring near closer to the railroad tracks. But,
Don't we have a board member on the railroad commission? Committee?
Next.
The railroad's way bigger than this committee here in the Elko.
No, I'm
Yeah.
talking about, there's
I
a
know
board
what
member.
you- Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Kentucky was on one.
Yeah, yeah. Railroads are horribly independent.
Yeah, you don't have to tell me.
All over, yeah.
Yeah.
so
Yeah, they're horrible.
for the grand finale of Highway M is where we would have, had the railroad not had come through, we would have quit right about there. And so, being that they came through kind of in the ninth hour, we were able to get Michaels in there and finish it. But that put us late, that put us finishing the shouldering of the road. And that's why on November 16th, we are wrapping up the shouldering. On November 2nd, Northeast finished the paving, and we were in there that afternoon and striped it, because the weather was turning and we knew we were very limited. And then we had some other weather and we went through a weekend, and then we got in here to finish this part. So it's done, it's open. Other than some incidentals, like I said, some seed and mulch and some things, the grading is done. There'll be some work for them to finish in the spring of '23. But actually turned out pretty well. Okay, next slide. So County Highway Q, our cold in place project, we started out there on or about May 25th with our guys doing culvert pipe work and intersection widening, okay? So this is the northwest quadrant of QQ. Telephone pedestal. These stakes here are behind it. That's where the curb and gutter goes. That was the holdup on this whole project. AT&T was very good, and I was working with a new engineer from Racine that helped us get through these first intersections. Go ahead, Nathan, to the next slide. That again shows here's where it is. He got a crew in there in the beginning, and we got these moved. Next slide, please. This one, this is the same quadrant, the same intersection, but very close. They got their crews in there. They got these moved. Next slide. To what it looks like today. No pedestal.
Where's Highway QQ? That's to the south end?
Yeah, right down there.
Right here. Yeah, right here. Long Road goes to the east, QQ goes to the west. So they were very good. They got crews jumped on this one. Okay, we're all set. We can go back. We can splice these peds in. There's other pedestals close by. That part worked all right. Okay, next slide. Pedestals are gone here. So they cooperated with us very good here, very good at Walton Road, very good at Mile Road the other way. Those went well. We got into Richwood, another story. Next slide, please. We got into Richwood. We have a deep ditch, very little shoulder, drainage problem. This culvert too high, didn't allow drainage real well from this house to come down through here. So we had a real problem there that needed to be solved before we could do the rest of the road work. Next slide. Afterwards, this is looking from that same spot, additional piping. This is storm sewer kind of up through right to drain this area. This is a turnaround, reverse direction, looking east instead of looking, that one's looking east, this one's looking west. Next slide. I couldn't find the picture that I took that I sent to AT&T when we started this, but this was where the culprit was, because there was a telephone ped right there. In order for us to make the proper improvements in that intersection, that ped had to be moved. And they had a contractor lined up, and then the guy didn't show up, and he didn't show up. And I'm on the phone with the engineer, and I said, what's going on here? Well, the contractor canceled that job, so he couldn't do it. So then they had to get somebody else lined up. That process right there kind of held up this whole end of this project. Otherwise, if it had moved along like the other earlier ones did down at QQ and Mile Road and Walton Road, we'd have come through there much sooner. But it worked out. This just ended up getting paved later than what we would like to, but it made a very nice improvement to the intersection. These vehicles always did park there. Worked that out with Neil Jones, the town chairman, because these people really, when they saw what was happening, we're gonna lose our parking, this has gotta get tied in. So we pulled the radius back, we're right at the edge of the right-of-way, had a tie-in sidewalk here for them, and widened that intersection. So, all in all, that turned out pretty well. Next slide, please. A little bit further to the east towards the tracks, towards Casey's, another deep ditch problem. This was very steep. There was like no shoulder here. Their mailbox was right up against the edge of the pavement. Again, we had a drainage problem coming from this direction up here by the old tavern. There's sump pumps. This all came right out the road, had no place to go. So we laid storm sewer all the way up to here. Had to relay all of this through here to get adequate drainage because it was very flat. This is one of our shop-made grates here that our welders would turn out for us. They could crank those out for by far less money than we could buy something for. So, and it worked out well because they're in the ditch, they're not getting driven over. So, next slide. So the cold in place process actually started, the first day of it started August 16th. And I wanted to really explain this to you so everyone has an understanding of how this works, what goes on with this process. So, excuse me. So the road here is profile milled. And when they profile mill it, they put the crown back where it's supposed to be, to a standard 2% crown in the road. Because the rest of the machinery follows this then for cutting the depth and treating the pavement that's there. And we could do that because we knew we had a lot of pavement there. That's why this hold-in-place process was so user-friendly to us and to the county to save money and build a really nice road. So once that process is done, then this machine, which is another mill, runs through this material and pulverizes it. He takes an 8-foot bite out of the 12 feet of lane. After he runs through, then this next machine, which is set up wider to take a 12-foot bite. Now, this one is dealing with the material that is loose in the middle. It's just picking up the edges. And then this tanker is coupled to this mill and pumps the oil back into that asphalt and aggregate and everything else that comes in off the shoulder to make that new bottom hold-in-place material. Next slide.
Rejuvenates the old, blends it all together
Yep.
into a new mix.
Mhm. Right. So this is a good shot of, you can see the material as it's being milled up. And again, another shot of the mill, the tanker. This whole thing is coupled together. This guy is pushing this guy and pulling this guy. So there's a lot of horsepower that's all happening here for this to all work well and for the science to follow it. The importance of the profile milling of this is so that this follows just that 4-inch depth of treatment. So in some places, you could see where we were running actually through the pavement. You can see spots where we were, for the most part, we were leaving some. So we were treating 4 inches of asphalt to go down on top of that old base. You could also see in the next slide where along here, it's maybe, I guess I kind of see it because I know what I'm looking for, but you could see in here where that road was built way back in the day to be 20 feet wide. And we were making it 24. So there were some spots where we had to go back and dig out and then strengthen the base. But not, in 9 miles of road, not many, realistically. So it comes through that mill, it runs through this crusher, a screen, and a pug mill, and runs through there, up the belt, into the paver. Next slide. Comes out through the paver and lays this nice mat right next to the old. So in this slide here, they're heading south towards Highway 19, and they're by, gotta think here a second, Middle Road. Middle Road is what they're actually approaching. Okay, next slide. On the second day, because after they crossed Middle Road, they stopped about in here, picked up, and I got out there to take some pictures and watch them turn around, and Nate actually also came out with me because it's kind of a traffic mess. Okay, they had a lot of people. Oh yeah. So you'll see it's kind of an appreciation for the whole train. So here's the mill here that ran all this way. He turned around, now he's going back chewing this up for the next stretch. Here's the tanker of oil. Here's the mill that's cutting 12 feet wide into the crusher. Now the paver is gone because they're approaching the end here at Highway 19 and they have to stop about 100 feet short. So everything they're processing is going into the truck. Next slide. So they get to the end. The crusher, the mill, they come out onto the road. Here's another shot of them. So there's nobody driving this crusher. The guy that's running the mill is actually pushing that, and he's steering it like a big old farm wagon. Yeah. Next slide, please. Here's the controlled chaos. So now we got the tankers, we got the mill, we got the crusher, we got everybody, we're all standing out on 19, and I said, Nate, you gotta help us here. So we had help from the sheriff's department and their guys, and I mean, there was what, about 5 minutes or so where we had traffic stopped in both directions while everything was getting untangled. And while that was all going on, here's that truckload of mix that's dumping back into the paver now to close this in. So once this all gets going around, they can be traveling north again and starting the process all over. Okay, next slide. So after that, on or about September 1st was when Northeast started. Now, there was, and I don't know how much you guys actually heard or what, but there were a lot of people that contacted me. Jeff, maybe you heard something from your neighbors down there, like Jeff Barris or something. What is going on in this corner here? Because Pitt Road is over here. Geez, they got a county's got a big, what do you got that big hole there for? What is going on? Well, when we were doing all these intersection improvements, that's called Pitt Road because there was a sand and gravel pit back here. So we started kind of poking around, and we had all kinds of material that we borrowed out of that area to use for good structural fill in the intersections. And then when we dug out soft spots and stuff, it all went back in there and we regraded it kind of along this whole side. Same goes along this side. This big super elevated curve was much steeper than today's standard. So that had to be raised, and in the process of raising that, and so that they could get it paved right and treated right, you know, that had to come up. So a lot of dirt work was done in and around that curve. Go ahead, next one please. So Northeast started on September 1st down here by Highway 19, and that was probably about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I actually took that previous photos in those slides. So they were laying that leveling course, which is anywhere from 3/4 of an inch to an inch, you know, before they put the final surface on. So all in all, that went pretty well. It got started a little bit later because W&K that did the Colton place couldn't get there until August. But we had our stuff all done for them. We were ready. Next one, please. And then the last big contracted project was our County Highway J project, and so that surface paving started on November 3rd. Nice wide road, things went very well. The intersection improvements went well. We did the Paddler's parking lot down by, I like to call it the Paddler's lot down by the Beaver Dam River. But things went well there. So here's a really good shot, truck dumping into the shuttle buggy, shuttle box in the air, buggy feeding the 2 pavers. Next slide, please. I got up on the hill on the west side of the road to kind of take some of these photos. It was really pretty cold that day, but by 9:15 it had warmed up to 54 degrees. And they were going and they were making good time. Next slide. So they had 19 trucks that day, and their laying rate was 380 ton per hour. So they were moving. They were moving, the rollers were keeping up, the plant was running well. I asked, was the plant maxed out? And they were a little short of that yet. The plant here at Burnett could handle like 480 ton per hour. So he said the loader man was pretty ornery that day. Next slide, please. So, temp at the screed, great temp for a cold weather paving day. I took that shot right behind the paver, 281 degrees right on the map. Coming out of there, awesome. 28 feet wide, 20 feet per minute was what they were going. Get out of the way. Next slide. And that's no bull. But yes, this is a bull, and this is a Scottish Highlander that, I don't know if any of you guys heard about this. This happened.
67, yes.
67 and 60, fell out of the back of the truck. Well, they think, well, this came from Bruce Boyd, one of our guys, and he is estimating that bull weighed probably 1,800 pounds. And thinking that
That's a lot
when
of bull.
that's a lot of bull. When he stepped on the gas to pull away from the stop sign, the bull tumbled to the back.
The trailer.
of the trailer,
Last
fell out.
trailer.
Because when Bruce was coming down the road, he said the bull was actually laying in the road. And then as he got right up close, that's when the bull got up. He pulled over, got his phone out, was kind of watching it, took the picture. There's the bull kind of just looking at him. But wandered off into the woods, didn't come back out. They had to actually put the bull down later after the farmer got there. Because they had all kinds of problems with that guy before he got in the trailer, so.
Well, that's a pretty good sized loss. for the
Yeah.
family.
So that is, that's my presentation for you today. So, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to work for you. I take a lot of pride in the projects we do and keeping our guys busy. You know, our quad axle trucks, we try to keep those guys going all the time. I think there were some questions maybe asked about us working for Fond du Lac County. That had nothing to do with holding up any of these projects. But we shared some work back and forth with Fond du Lac. We haven't with Jefferson too in the past, and we didn't do any of that this last year. But like to keep those trucks going, like to keep all our guys busy and doing something, so.
A lot of good work got done, absolutely.
Thank you much.
And done well. M really is a nice road.
Good.
It really is.
Good.
MJ is all good. Turned out well. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you all you gentlemen for
Appreciate
all
all
your
your
work.
work.
Dodge County, thank you. A lot of good work done this year.
You can stick around a minute, we'll talk about 27.
Yeah, I have equipment on
Okay.
We wanna-
Motion adjourned.
No.
I've got till 6:30.
That's good.
If we could go to the resolution, since.
No.
Number
Okay,
9.
Number 9. We're going to move to number 9. Review consider.
Thank you, have a good night.
Gentlemen, have a
You
good
bet.
night. Review, consider, and possibly take action on the following. First, item number 1 is the Ford 2024 Mack GR 84 FR triaxle truck chassis. All these were the units that were in our budget, or that are in our budget to purchase for our build program for 2023.
Crete is the only vendor that submitted a quotation for triaxle chassis to be built into triaxle plow trucks. The only exception to the spec is he doesn't know. Last year we incurred surcharges. The previous surcharges that we received on the 2022 trucks were built into this price. I mean, there weren't any surcharges, obviously. Mack, they were going to take they up the original monthly rate. But the only thing you wrote on the bottom of the quote was price is subject to any additional material surcharges from Mack truck. We don't know. It's 2022 brought surcharges for every vendor. 2023 could do the same thing. He doesn't know. He's not saying there are going to be. He's not saying there's not going to be.
So this price has no surcharge in it currently, or has surcharge?
I would not say it has a surcharge in it. I would say that Mack has probably adjusted their price.
That's current price.
Yeah, that's the current
All
price.
in, all in.
All of it, yeah. No, there's no surcharge. There was no surcharge written on the quotation. I'm just, you know.
Just assuming that they built it in.
Well, I mean, like, look at it, last year, our price was this is off the top of my head, what was $134,000, and they added the $7,500 for the surcharges. So, I would assume that that price has went up plus the inflation for 2023, which we're still seeing.
Again, the reason Crete is the only bidder is because that part of our specifications requires the dealer to move the trucks back and forth for warranty. And they're the closest dealer that can do that.
Is the next closest dealer lacrosse, Brian?
I think they're, yeah,
That would be the next closest.
correct.
Creek Fond du Lac.
They're Crete.
Well,
That was Crete, yeah, they're.
yeah,
And they won't.
but Creek's, they're not gonna bid against each other. They're
Eau
all-
Claire is
right,
the only,
right.
Eau Claire is the next closest
Aren't they just a
dealer
little
to
bit closer?
us.
Yeah, and for a while, we were getting service out of Fond du Lac. You know, as far as we're concerned, we don't care where they take it. It's a matter of them picking it up, bringing it back. And no other vendor can afford to do that from farther. It's defeated, and they were in the business, love to
Point, yeah.
work with us, but this, I can't come from Cedar Point, get your truck and bring it back.
It goes to Madison a lot.
So
It
Steph,
goes to
everything,
Madison.
everything was up on as far as how we like the bids down there?
Because you have a sole source, because you're only getting Mac.
I mean, it goes back down to Madison for warranty work 99% of the time because the truck salesman transports it. Because we require that, and you know as well, service and sales don't always get along. You know what I mean? You do it. So Jeff transports them himself, if he has to. Service will help, but if service is like, we don't have anybody, Jeff jumps in the truck, and he comes from Madison, and he comes up here, and he picks up the truck and drives it back. But yes, we do deal with Bond Light, we do parts from them sometimes, stuff
All
like
right,
that.
this is informational
No, this is action.
because it's over so much. All right,
Got a motion, Rob?
it's budgeted, right?
Yes.
Yes, take a motion.
Okay. Is there a second? I'll second by Dale. Any further discussion?
Why are we doing tri-axles instead of quads?
We're not,
Because the theory I thought behind replacing the trucks earlier, more of them, is so that it'd be worth something when we got rid of them. I don't know anybody out there who wants a tri-axle instead of a quad.
in the
What-
private sector,
What are we
no.
doing as our
Yeah.
secondary market?
We are a secondary market in smaller counties or other snowplow agencies to sell it as a patrol truck.
Because what are we looking at as a price difference from a quad to a tri-axle?
I don't know what that initial chassis cost is. The box would be more, of course. The rest of the hardware would be about the same. But our concern is maneuverability of a quad over a tri on a lot of our turnarounds and a lot of our county roads.
Because
I
we're
think
also
you
gonna
could-
have more payload for salt, for
Sure.
asphalt and everything else when we have quads.
Yeah.
One other issue too is we're maxed at length with our frame rail. So if we go to quads, and I'm not,
Yeah.
this would be something to look at, I'm not telling you this is a fact, but this would be a bridge cross. We might have to go back to double wall frame rails, or we have to go, or right now I think we're at a 3-inch depth frame rail, and we would have to go to 4 or 5. So your flange would be bigger, and then it interferes with our PTO one. Not saying it can't be done.
No, it can be. There
I'm
are some
just-
counties that have quads.
And we definitely wanna stay away from double frame.
Yeah, no, we've crossed that bridge and we ran back over it.
Yeah.
And over there, look like the pluses and the minuses.
I got the business card if you need the
We don't want to fix that one.
Next time we do double wing trucks for the big roads, we will explore quads on 151 and 41. Because there we can turn around in those big crossovers, and there we really benefit from more capacity. So I think you may see us building quads on the big roads. Maneuverability is not as much of an issue as it is on these county roads.
Anything else? All those in favor? Aye.
All right.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Item 2, 2020 period newer 1-ton dual rear wheel drive with extended cab and dump body and hydraulics for a room.
We received 2 bids for this. As you can see there, the exceptions of spec from bad truck auto group, no high idle, no warranty transport, order must be placed by 12/9, which is impossible for us. They're $10,000 more than Ewald Hartford.
Where's Badger?
They have multiple locations, but they're out of Milwaukee. I think there's a battery truck out of Madison too.
I think they've got a place in DeForest now or Windsor.
Yeah, they're decent sized.
This is budgeted too?
Where was this one? I don't remember this one being in the budget. I remember 2 foreman trucks being in the budget.
This and 2 foreman trucks were in the budget. E-Wall is normally who wins our bids for these, they have the state contract.
And what are we doing with this truck?
This is a 1-ton, with a dump body, so we could put a,
I think it's equipped with the hydraulics to put a broom on to go to
We
crash
will-
sites and clean up.
we will have to, it'll come with hydraulics for a dump body as spec rated, right? So we'll be able to raise it up like a 2-gallon per minute pump with a hoist, dump body, stainless steel, flip down sides, flip down tailgate. And then we will install hydraulics on this to run a rotary sweeper broom, so that we can clean up roadside messes, stuff like that, accidents.
We're gonna have a 4x2 that's got a box, a dump box, and why are we using a 4x2 instead of a 4x4?
Well, first of all, cost and then extra maintenance cost, but we don't use the 4-wheel drive. We have mostly 4-wheel drive pickups here, in fact, we have very few 2-wheel drive. We discussed this before we put this in the budget, I asked Brian, 4-wheel drive or 2x4, and we don't use.
Unless you're putting a plow on it.
We don't use the 4-wheel drive, it's just,
Usually not.
would the guys like to have 4-wheel drive? I mean, on the next slide, you'll see the difference in the cost, because Evolve actually bid a 2-wheel drive and a 4-wheel drive. Would the guys like to have a 4-wheel drive? Yeah, they would. I would never not buy a 4-wheel drive pickup. I'm also not doing what,
Are these trucks gonna last a long time, or are they gonna be turned over every 3 or 4 years?
Brian would have to speak to that. I don't have any plans to turn them over 3 or 4 years. We did that a while ago.
Because if you did, then they should be 4x4s, I think.
Yep, you would think.
I think you'd have them on rotation.
Well, now, is this one replacing the
Well,
one
let's
that's
say 139 that we just sold on the auction, that orange truck,
Yeah, the one that
is
blown
a
engine
brother
or
to
whatever
this
it was?
from the 2006 model. That's what it's replacing. This will give us a 5th 1-ton with a broom on it, so then we have one in every shop. So we have one in Trenton, one in Juneau, one in Neosho, one in Mayville, one in Reedsville, so that when the sheriff department calls at midnight, the guys go in, they have a pickup truck with a broom on it to go sweep. That's the point. I mean, we actually have less 1-tons right now than we've had in a long time, and we're not planning on replacing all of them, I don't think. I mean,
What will we use this truck for?
maintenance sweeping, they take this stuff out to hot patch.
We don't use it in the winter time?
Yeah. We do a lot of crack filling, like when it's not snowing, we do a lot of crack filling. Nate and Joe was stuck around, they'll tell you more, something, comment on something that's.
Asphalt in the back.
Asphalt in the back, we buy we have hot boxes we purchase, and the actual exhaust runs into the hot box, heats it, comes out of the hot box for the hot patching of the cold mix for the road patching.
why are we heating the cold mix?
Where are we getting?
Why are we heating cold patch, or cold mix?
Because if it's 20 degrees outside, you can't shovel it. Like you literally can't. Summertime, you don't need to, in the wintertime, when we patch, it's turned into a rock. Most of these guys will
Thaw it out.
empty it off of their truck if they don't use it all at the end of the day, because otherwise it takes so long for it to heat back up and become soft.
Well, as long as it's budgeted, I'll make the motion.
All right. By Rob, is there a second? By John. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
No, I don't recall that.
Opposed?
budget.
I'm just
I
gonna
asked the
tell you, it was
same
on my
question.
budget I gave to Brian.
It
I
wasn't
still
on
got
the
that.
budget.
Honestly,
Then
What's that?
he's looking it up right now.
it wasn't the budget.
Well, you said it was budgeted.
It wasn't approved in the budget that we just approved as a full board.
Sure.
These 2 farming trucks were on there, and the other 4 trucks were on there. This is new.
Well, I said, as long as it's budgeted.
I asked that question myself because I couldn't recall. I said, yes, it was budgeted. So that's-
Well, let's move on, and if it's not, you'll let us know.
I guess so.
Yeah, because you said long as it was one.
Right.
Item 3, to 2023 or newer 1-ton dual rear-wheel drive with utility bodies. To replace that. One ton, they call it a pickup, but a 1-ton portable, but it's out there. So I guess if we wanna move back, Rob's motion was if it's budgeted, and there's the proof that it was budgeted.
Right.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
So what do we need bumper cars?
You know, we talked about that, we still need some, but they don't all need to be. Yeah,
I'll move to approve the 223 one-ton dual forward tube.
Motion by Rob, second by Dale.
These would be coming from Van Horn and Summit.
Okay, Van Horn, we'll look at
They were a
that
little
now.
bit.
Okay,
I do remember seeing the sheet.
well, there you go. Not Ewald.
Not Ewald, he was, I called him. Ewald told us that this budget year for 23, that they would only be able to supply us with one pickup truck, so this,
So there must be a lot of need.
so it worked out. Because I actually called Van Horn and Plymouth and asked them if they could supply us with trucks to make sure, because Ewald was telling us we could only get one from them, and he said, yes, I can get you trucks. It does, the section of the spec is 2 keys, no warranty transport. But they're the only vendor that can get us trucks.
And XL versus XLT trim isn't
Yes.
significant, really.
No.
No warranty transport. How much warranty is it gonna be on them?
well, hopefully none, and that's the only opportunity we have.
Only chance, the only game in town, right?
We need to vote on that.
Yep, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? That's also approved.
Who seconded the?
I got one more.
All right.
These are diesels,
Yes.
These are 7.3 liter gaskets.
We stopped buying diesels in this size truck about 5 years ago. Extra cost, and, I mean, they really pull harder if we pull a lot, like skid loaders or what, but on these trucks, we just decided it's not worth the money.
Put that in mind.
They're still 23,000 pounds road vehicle weight rating.
All right. That's all we need. AJ for it,
I'd like to have him here if we do commissioner report.
Okay, then we're gonna move back up to number 7, commissioner's reports.
Okay, the first item we'll talk about is what I'm an AJ here for. We had a very unfortunate incident yesterday in our shop. This truck coming out of the wash bay here in Juneau with the box up, hit this wall and knocked this steel I-beam header down on the cab of the truck. He stopped. He's all right. He got out, scampered. This is all concrete block just hanging up there by its lugs. It's a pretty precarious situation. And the truck was stuck in there, obviously. We had to do all of this very tactfully. Called Moss Brothers, you guys built the building, and they dropped everything and came up here. It was incredible. They dropped everything and came up here, brought a structural engineer to make sure there's no bearing properties to that header and that wall, because there's a steel I-beam up here and the motor sits on that. So we wanted to make sure before we took this apart what the impact was going to be. They determined, no, it's not bearing, they're okay if you do it sensibly and delicately and don't take out the bearing corner here that does hold that beam up. They're okay. So we got 2 telehandlers in there, one we own, one we had to go rent down by Iron Ridge. 2 telehandlers in there and some planking, and we held that masonry up. Then we tethered our grate all boom to this beam, lifted it up. We weren't sure the box was gonna come down because it looked like that was racked too. We got a guy in the truck, box came down, backed that thing out of the wash bay, and then we proceeded to remove that beam, get the beam out of the way, shored all that masonry up temporarily so we could get up there now in a telescopic boom basket and dismantle that masonry wall. And we've decided, since it's non-bearing, we're not gonna put it back. We're gonna leave it open. Prevent this. I can pass it around, but that was, and there's some, and would you speak to the condition of 27?
The part of the truck that hit the actual brick wall was the hoist. box goes up, when the box goes up, the hoist kicks out. So the hoist is what hit the wall. The hoist has a small dent in it, I'm surprised it's not more dented, it crushed the return pipe for the hydraulic oil, bent off the top. We replaced that pipe. The hoist seems to go up and down just fine and doesn't pick up or catch, so we left that in the truck. There is significant damage to the top of the cab on the passenger side. It was not significant enough to come down and bend the door jamb, so the passenger door opens and closes and is fine, and seems to seal fine. So we're going to, it's a double wing truck. One thing we have plow trucks, but one thing we don't have a lot of extra of, or any extra of, is double wing plow trucks. So if we lose a double wing plow truck, we have to take the wing off and put it on another truck. We have a couple of trucks that used to be double wing trucks that aren't anymore. But we're going to prep the cab a little bit, scuff it up, put some, probably chassis saver on it, which is a lot like bed liner, to prevent rusting, and then come this summer, when we take it out of service, we'll pull the headliner down, bend the top of the cab back up.
Jack it back up.
I mean, this is a 2012 model year truck, so it's 11 years old. So I think me and Brian discussed there's no purpose to put it back to new. You can't really see the top of the cab unless you're trying to look at it, unless you're up there. There's a little bit on the side, but we'll pound it back as straight as we can, get it where it is, and then we'll paint it to match correctly. And that's gonna be the repair.
Could have been a lot worse.
The hoist, as long as the hoist holds up, doesn't develop a leak, I don't know, maybe it goes out a week and it starts leaking because it's got the ding in it.
Let me ask you something, so when something like this happens, I'm glad the guy's okay and everything, but, so what disciplinary comes out of this, anything?
Sure, well, sure.
And obviously he's not being safe.
Brand new guy, for about 6 weeks. Rookie, they're rookies, when we get them now, they're rookies, we're not getting seasoned veterans.
Right, but you gotta be safe when you're out in these big trucks.
Oh,
And you gotta be aware of what's going on around you.
yeah, we've had,
I mean, we're very unfortunate there was no injury.
Right.
But, I mean, this stuff happens. I mean, it sucks when it does, but this does happen. It's
operator area.
like to see it doesn't, but
we had
I
to,
see it all the time, guys with garbage trucks will hit the top of the doors by us.
It does.
But
I was the first,
well, it happens.
I was the first person to go to the wash bay. He called and to the wash bay, and I came out there and he helped us procure the scene, he put blame nowhere but on himself. I'll just tell you that much. He wasn't, oh, I was talking to her, he distracted me, there was none of that. He was,
Remorseful.
yeah, absolutely.
He and his supervisor were in my office at 7:30 this morning, and we had a pretty somber talk about responsibility and awareness. Sometimes incidents like this make a very good employee.
Never happen again.
I said, Corey, everybody gets a pass. You got yours very early in your career. So don't let it happen again.
yeah, I mean, it's not a significant financial impact either way it's sounding. I mean,
No.
we're gonna call people out to
Come on,
the
everybody.
building and stuff and whatnot, and we're gonna have a little bit of time in the truck, but, if the guy seems like he's working out good for us, like you say, I agree, he may end up being one of your better employees on the road.
You have 3 strikes and you're out after 5 years, 5 accidents in 5 years, or 3 accidents in 5 years, you're gone.
Yeah, I don't know, we would probably enforce something like that here too. Fortunately, we haven't had to, but, yeah, we had a very somber talk, and it's all in his file, and hopefully, but we've had this before, it happens. Much as you don't like it, it happens.
That's what it does, but it's.
Many moving parts as we have,
Thing is
we're
there's
lucky it
no
doesn't happen more.
Injury.
That's right, nobody got hurt.
It's a person.
Damn thing could have crushed the cab and that
Right.
would have been a different
Yeah,
story.
I'm glad that masonry stayed up there. That would have been
Or someone else in the area.
5,000 pounds of block coming down, that would have been us. So,
But the structural engineer said we don't need to keep that beam up there?
nope,
So we didn't need it, why
It's
is it?
kind of like a door.
well,
The beam just holds the bricks, the bricks come out.
Right.
Being just nothing.
what happened when this was originally designed, there was an overhead door there. The original design was you pull in, you roll down the overhead door, you're in an enclosed area, because we didn't want all the moisture and everything out into the rest of the building. Well, we quickly learned after we started to use the building in the winter months, with that door down, you couldn't see in there.
Steam so bad, yeah.
So the door stays up anyway, and so.
Hope you guys are writing that we don't need to have a B in there.
Yeah, we'll have a report from structural engineer. That's one of
But
the.
now the block comes out of there as well. right?
Block comes out, that's coming out right now. And if we have steam rolling out, we're gonna put a plastic curtain there. Because we don't need to host the door anymore, we don't need all that structure.
Or an air curtain, something.
Yeah. So we learn as we go. And we're also looking at the technologies out there now today for a light curtain. You know how your garage door has a beam across it, if you break the beam. We're looking at some kind of, they make a light curtain now, it's, rather than just a beam, it's got maybe an 18-inch wide light band across it, so you can cover up, an 18-inch spans there. And if the box would be up and it'd break that beam, flashing lights and a siren maybe would go off. And if that technology works out, we've got a lot of doors we might put that on. We have a lot of doors that we might put that on, if that turns out to work out. Yeah, because it happens, and if they get that warning 5 feet before the doorway, that might say, what's a lot of
How far
trouble.
out in front of the door can you have it? Because, if he's
Yeah,
rolling along and all of a sudden breaks the beam, by the time the warnings go out, he might be into the door.
I know it, and we're gonna study
Look
it.
at all that, how it's all set up.
So sometimes you make lemonade out of these things and you gain from it.
Yeah, once I took my combine auger through my shop door one day in November.
I'm up to here freaking overhead doors. Got some of you guys in trouble for it.
I thought it was up all the way when I started backing up, and it wasn't, about 4 panels got her. Alrighty.
All right, thank you guys.
Yeah, yeah,
Thank you.
Okay, it's commissioner reports.
Yep, we're still on commissioner report. Have you got anything from employee
Yeah,
retention?
I do, I get the honor of sharing good news for a change instead of woe and poor me here. Monday, a fellow started and gave us full roster. It was probably the first time in 4 years.
Awesome.
Full roster of guys. Glad to report that, glad to have that. We've got one unofficial retirement, the guys declared it, but not giving it to us in writing, end of February. So we'll have full roster until then. And that's a good feeling going into the winter season.
Of course, all the snow should hopefully be over by then.
Well,
Hopefully.
yeah, or at least warm weather behind it. So I wanted to share that, good news for a change. A little bit of a concern there, just a heads up, I hope it's not an issue, but recently learned Dane County is giving their employees a 9% increase. Sometimes that drafts a few of our guys on the west side over the main.
Where did you hear, did you get that right from Jerry, or?
No, I got that yesterday from one of our department heads.
So I saw it on Facebook, whether or not, I don't know if I'm buying it, unless I hear, I was thinking about calling Jerry.
Yeah, probably not a good idea. But if that's true, sometimes we lose guys in that direction solely on pay. I hope that doesn't happen, but for today, we got full
I
house.
just can't imagine. 9.5 it was, right?
I heard 9, but
It was, yeah,
That's crazy, man.
that's ridiculous.
That's gonna,
I'm calling Dougie.
If it's
calling
real.
anybody.
that's real, that's different.
I don't know. I don't understand. I don't know how we can afford 8.
Alrighty, next item then is the,
I guess
is there anything in on
conference.
Yeah, you have nothing more on recruitment?
No, that's all I have
Okay,
for that.
then we will move on to WCHA Winter Conference registration.
I give everybody the registration form. If you're interested in going, I really need to get that completed. And if you did need a room, it's, we used to make a reservation. I just don't know if it'll be at the same venue as the conference. I'm gonna find out. If you-
I'm not interested.
Okay, then that's fine. That's perfectly fine.
I got stuff going on.
What actually, takes place at this?
You've got like a bunch of vendors, I'm sure, that goes over different things about road jobs and how they can improve it.
There are vendors there and they all have display booths, but they're not much of the agenda. The agenda is more about DOT will have several segments there talking about new and different things in the maintenance area or their contracts or their expectations. We'll have people speaking about new methods and equipment practices at the state level or things that benefit us in our
Would be more
applying
beneficial,
for
like,
grants.
to somebody in your position.
Well, they try to tailor some of the sessions to elected officials and some to technical people. And then the elected officials, a lot of times they'll have a section where there'll be a legal guy from WCA and they're talking about committee and committee members' roles and responsibilities and, you know, policy-making practices and how important that is. And they're good. They're good if you can attend. I've never
I
had
would
a
agree,
committee
I've
member.
learned something every time I've been there.
I've never had a committee member disappointed that they went. In all honesty. And I guess in addition.
I gotta take vacation. to
No,
do
I
it.
know,
That's
I
the trouble.
know. And you could, you know, you don't have to attend at all. If you come for one day, it can really be beneficial. And I will say this, in almost every conference I've attended, whether it's WCHA or some others, you'll learn as much at lunch or in the hallway from your peers than you'll learn from who's on stage. Just talking to the other counties, the other people in the same role, you can learn a lot of good things. You start a conversation, we're really having a problem with.
Doing this or that, you know?
I say, well, here's how we do it. Here's my phone number if you want, email it or call. I mean, there's a lot of good people there that walk the same walk we do. So if you're available for any or all of it, I recommend it.
Is there any day you would recommend more than one?
I told you the agenda before, me, didn't
I
I? send you
thought I
that?
brought it along, but I can't find the darn
Yeah,
thing.
let me see if I can pick up out a
Just
few of the
just at
highlights
first
here.
glance, I
Well,
thought
not
maybe
at that night,
Tuesday.
but it might come a day.
Sure,
Yeah,
sure.
that's what I would probably do too.
And that's perfectly fine. Monday's typically a work day and not a lot there for
Committee
for
stuff.
committee people, but
Tuesday seemed like,
well, here's one for Tuesday morning, federal update. How to access the new federal funds. Now, we're pretty far along with that. We got the BIL grant and some more in the future. But that's a usually a worthwhile topic. Insurance claims, the process and filing of insurance claims. Legislative recap, where are we? What can we expect for today's laws on the books and what's coming up in the future? Some of those have more impact to us than others, but they'll tell us what they're working on, what's being proposed, good and bad. Sometimes they'll tell us about something at the state or federal level that could have a very negative impact on us in the highway business, some wetland protection measures. They'll tell us about that and say, you might want to talk to your legislators. If this got passed, here's what it's going to mean to you. And your roadside ditches will now become wetlands or something of that nature. Sometimes they'll tell us about good things coming along and you want to get to your representatives and ask them to support this funding or this change. So they'll tell us the latest legislative things there. And then there's the committee meetings at Tuesday afternoon. It can be helpful, but not as much to elected officials. When, let's see, and then Tuesday afternoon is a business meeting and there's a nationally recognized speaker there. He was the deputy fire chief for New York City during 9/11. And I'm sure he'll have some very interesting parts to discuss about organization or lack thereof in a major disaster and how they got through all that. Sometimes pretty motivational speakers, and that's probably what that fellow is. Local programs, what have we done and what do we have to do? And again, local programs is where we get state money to us. The BIL, the STP, the bridge program, all those things. So there's an update on what they're doing and what we need to do to get the local funds to Dodge County. Wednesday's a short day. I wouldn't recommend that. I think if you wanted to come on Tuesday would be the day. Wednesday morning's the association business meeting. There's no election at this time, so usually nothing there. Talk about hiring and retention in the new environment. Employee resource director from Marathon County will be there to put that on. You know, there's always some ideas about how we in the public works sector can attract or retain people, and we like to hear what our competition's doing. And many times it's more than money. We in the government can't throw money like the private sector, other than the county, I guess. But sometimes there's other ideas.
Well said.
You know, flexible schedules or the 410 is a big calling card here. And so we hear things of that nature. Member communication plan. Not sure what that is, a new member communication plan. Maybe that's, new members on the.
New members on
Elected
committees, yeah.
committee, yeah, I don't know what that is. But that's kind of what it is, and I guess if you're looking at one day, I'd recommend Tuesday. If you're going to come and know that you need to register, but it's that simple.
I think the drop dead date for registration for the conference is on the 2nd.
Correct. Yeah. I'll assume nobody needs a room. Fair assumption?
If I go, I'm
Yeah,
not
just
gonna
go one
Yeah.
day.
It's
We won't worry about rooms at all. And if you want to attend a day, you just need to let me know and I'll get you, by the 22nd, I'll get you registered.
Okay.
For that thing.
All right, then I'm gonna back up to highway condition safety concerns. Anybody got anything they wanna bring forward for those?
Did you talk to Michaels from last month?
Yeah, we had, I had to go check. And anything they had parked was out of the right of way. And just for this committee's information, it's not illegal to park in the right of way.
It's not.
Now, if they leave it there for a period of time, I send them a letter and ask them to move it because it's a safety hazard. But for example, if you have an auction or a wedding, people park all up and down the road, and that's not illegal. Now, if they leave them there, I consider that a hazard and I get them moved. Sometimes farmers will park their equipment just off the shoulder and just on the other side of the ditch. Yeah, that's not safe. If somebody runs off the road, we don't need to be encountering that, but in short term, it's not illegal. And they were, when we went and checked, it was all up behind the railway.
Yeah, this was that night when I saw it.
Okay. Yeah, we did check up on it. Appears to be limited, but if you see it again, it's long term, I'll certainly address it.
Anybody, anything else? Okay, then we will move on to project updates. We've heard quite a bit of it, but, Nathan, if you got anything more to add for project updates?
I think we heard all of it, didn't we?
It was, I'll go quick. I mean, you saw Steve's pictures on Highway M there. The project, like he said, is substantially complete. There'll be some work in spring, restoration, seeding and mulching work, mostly at the north end of the project by Jay, with the railroad crossings. So obviously they couldn't plant stuff in November, so they'll be back in spring to finish that up as part of the contract. We are gonna have an issue. We're gonna be holding back the final payment to Michael's, because there is an insurance claim with a resident there, so once that's settled, then we'll be able to pay them in full. But the project turned out very, very nice. Item D, Highway J from 1660 up to G. Steve had pictures of that one, Long J as we called it. That one, as Steve said, is complete and open to traffic. Item C, that's what we call short J. It goes through Climbing there from 26 to M. That one's also done. Complete, open to traffic. And on to Highway D, I show you guys, I got a little, let's see, D, where's my list here, for 8D. Here's our project list for next year. As of right now, this is what it's looking like. The first one on the list are Highway S, that's left over from the contract from this year. It's the one that got delayed. So that'll go next year. V is the BIL project. That one's gonna go, that one's actually already been bid. I'll talk to about that project as the next item. But also in addition, we're looking at doing Highway TW, that's basically from what I call downtown Kikoski out to V there.
I thought that was a misprint, I thought that was FW.
Not yet, my friend. But close.
It's on the list.
It's getting close.
No, I was horrible driving my trucks up and down that road, horrible.
Definitely.
Yeah, that one's actually.
It's on our short list.
Yeah, that one's actually in the design process. Highway E, by Hustisford, we get the last 0.9 miles that went off of the Highway E that we did, was it last year? Year before. Highway W, Juneau down to 60, that one we got LRIP money for. And Highway T, from 1660 up to S, I believe that's gonna be an ARPA funded project. And depending on how the bids come in, depending on budget and that, I think I'd like to throw in Highway TW, that last section there from WT to AY is an alternate bid, which means we elect to do it or not based on how the bids come in. But that's the section that's currently load posted, under 10 tons. So if we resurface that road, we'd be able to remove the load posting. So, as of today, 12/8/22, that's what we're looking at for our 2023 projects.
Pretty aggressive list.
Now, where do we stand with cost as far as bidding? Like, last time around, some of our projects were more expensive because of the time frame that we did. Now, are we able to, now that with the ARPA money and the budget that we just passed, we have funding, we should be able to get projects bid sooner and faster and a
Oh,
little less
definitely.
expensive?
The plan is to bid these late winter, early spring, and all one bid. So last year, we bid them in July, awarded them in August.
So-
That's where the prices,
So-
that's where the issue you're talking about came in. So I think we'd avoid that by bidding these early, and that's the plan, is to have that list bid early.
So these, the list besides the Mayville one, are these all low ratings on the scale, or road rating, base
Piece of
rating?
rating?
Yeah, we have no shortage of low base rating.
But these are all the bottom ones?
Yeah, these are twos. Yeah, twos, three. So we don't resurface fours because
Right.
Still have some life.
we have plenty twos and threes to go, yeah, like FW.
And so these are projected, these are not bid yet?
No.
Except for D.
Right, because that's. the-
And S is a carryover.
Well, and S, yeah. But the other ones will be bid, will be our next bid, which will be,
And they'll all be,
March.
each piece of that would be separate, right? You know, bundle.
It'll be part of one bid.
So one contract.
For each
It's S and
separate
V
piece of
won't be.
roadway.
One contract for everything on the list except for the yellow one and the blue one.
So we're gonna bid this out in March, or we're gonna do it in like end of January, beginning of February?
We're gonna bid it in March, and then it'll start in May.
Yeah, they're still in the design phase right now, but they'll be ready by February.
So one contractor's gonna end up with 13.1 miles, because I'm assuming we already got the contractor for V.
Yes. Well, subtract out S.
S is a holdover from this year that.
Yeah, so it'll be like,
11.9 miles.
Right.
11.7.
yeah, I mean, that's how we've done it.
Do we think that that's the most beneficial way to get the best bids?
Well, we bundle them all, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think, I guess my thought is there's two things with that. I mean, number one, if you're bidding on 12 miles versus .9, you should get better unit prices. And the other thing too is, think of a worst case scenario. Say we have 5 different roads. What if we have 5 different contractors that all want to start April 15th? Our guys do, you heard Steve, our guys do pipes, grading, shouldering. If we're one contractor, you would kind of work with them and set up a schedule to do it throughout the summer. But if 5 contractors want to do everything at the same time, what do we do?
Right, but don't we
See
do a
how
lot
much
of
they
the
get for
culvert work
culverting, I
the
guess, and shouldering.
Not, we'll do it, some stuff with like V, some of those are done, but we don't know for sure what roads are, I mean, I put today's date on here, this list could change based on what our budget is looking at. So we don't replace culverts on roads unless we are very sure we're gonna be doing them. So we can't do them too far in advance. But we have to get it done and over with before the contractor is in town to do the paving.
Yeah, for coordination, for mobilization costs, again, it's much more beneficial that one contractor have a sizable quantity, and he can get stages mobilization of all his equipment in and out and his crews, stages production at his plant, based on the schedule and what else he has in the area.
And do we have a time limit when he has to have them all done?
Yeah, always.
When is that, September?
Usually it's when the, like middle October, early
October
October.
15th, something like
Yeah.
that. And quite honestly, if we get this out in March, there shouldn't be any problem having that done by the end of September.
Yeah, the problem
So
is
why do we do all the engineering?
Why do we? We don't do all of it. We do about 10 miles a year, and the rest we contract. We
Yeah.
only have capacity for about 10 miles of design a year.
On that list, W and T are being designed by a consultant. But that's because we're trying to get projects ready in case we get like BIL funding or ARPA funding or something like that, so we can have projects ready to go. Like Brian said, we got our guy maxed out, but he can't keep up with extra projects if we get project, money awarded to us.
Wouldn't that fall upon the contractor? Don't we call the contractor up and, hey, I want a bid for this amount of roads, and here's the spec I wanted at?
Well, we do, but
We
we
have the
develop the spec.
Yeah, the spec is
We
waiting
developed
out
the
there for
spec.
the bid package.
And they bid based on the design.
Yeah,
And we established the center line alignment and the elevations and things of that nature, because that's gotta be controlled, that's gotta meet the standards for super elevation geometry, and keep your road in your right of way, and, we take control of all that. They do the staking, then they come out and pave it, but
Yeah,
we need
intersection
plans and
geometrics and all that stuff.
specifications to, design speed, make it right.
Yeah, we design it based on the DOT standard. So we create our design, and then we put the plans out for bid along with our specs. So the contractors take the specs, they take the plans, look at it, and create their bids based on our design.
And the bids are apples to apples, and we have a quality control factor, and then we test their density and their mix design and performance of their material. And we have the control of all of that.
Yeah, and we put that in the spec that it's gonna be done, so they know ahead of time.
Have we seen any areas that we've tested where there's been like virgin asphalt compared to non-virgin asphalt?
Well, their asphalt meets our spec, so.
Right.
And all asphalt today has some recycled asphalt content.
Right,
Yeah.
but if you actually have a spec, is everyone true, virgin asphalt compared to what they've been using, I'd like to see what the comparison is of how much longevity you can get out of one versus the other. It might be worth the extra $10 a ton, virgin asphalt.
Oh, to get all the wrap out?
Yeah,
No, we've not done that. We could,
maybe it's worth a test.
yeah. We'll talk about that.
Get some engineering opinions on it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you do a test and we think we're gonna get more life, like a lot more life, maybe it's worth the extra $10 a ton.
Yeah,
And you're gonna work anyway.
yeah.
Cost comparison.
We could pick one of those and do it with 100% virgin and no wrap and watch it.
I mean, that's what they did on 41 in Sonoma County. You look on the shoulder of the road, you'll see a stake with a big sign, and then you guys see them every so often, they use different mixture of concrete, like a test thing, so they know what was better. It's interesting.
It is. And it's a good idea, and we do things like that. The only fault or drawback on that, it takes 5 to 8 years to see
Yeah.
the result. But it's worth doing. I'm not saying it's not worth doing, but we won't know for a while.
We
It
got,
also takes a lot more time to do the road, too.
Yeah.
we got to start somewhere.
Yeah, that's right. No, we've got a lot of test sites out there for different things, but we've never done that one.
Okay. Item E, BIL grant funding update.
All right, so this is our Highway V project. I'll show you the overall page first. So based on the bids, and I'll let you know, so this Highway V project was bid by DOT, it wasn't bid by us. The bids were opened, Northeast Asphalt was awarded the project. And based on the bid results, our BIL grant was updated. So here's what the old chart was, and here's the new, and I'll zoom in so you guys can actually read it. But basically, originally, our award was gonna be 1.87 million. Our portion of V was gonna be about 480,000. This is the updated cost right here. We've now got the award was increased to 2.23 million, which makes our portion, because this is an 80-20 split on V, about 570,000. So
So increase of what?
it was about 360,000 for the extra award. Our amount went up about 100,000. A little less.
That increased why?
Because of the way the bids came on.
Inflation.
Yeah,
Amanda
right.
from Ayers said that earlier about the bridge world, same thing. That our bridge on NP is already over budget, but they'll do a change here to increase their 80%, or their contribution up to the new 80%. We'll be responsible for the 20%. It's becoming very common in our world to establish inflation driving everything up significantly.
At least they're willing to adjust their grant to compensate for that.
That wasn't always the case, folks. They used to cap these, and any overage, it was on you, or you don't do the job. We're really lucky right now. They're able to do the change management and get the grant amounts up to the true 80%.
Right.
There were projects that didn't get done because the local couldn't cover the gap. And the money just went somewhere else.
Yeah, you don't want that to happen.
No.
No, keep them going, yes, we can.
So now that was already bid though, right? I mean, the blue one at the top?
No, this is just, the original agreement before the bid was
That was an estimate.
this one up here. Yeah, this was based on estimate. This
Oh, okay.
lower one was based off of the bid.
Okay.
So once they got the bid results, saw it came in higher, then they increased our grant to account for the higher bid. But keep in mind that estimate was put together, I don't know how long ago, maybe a year ago.
Yeah, when we did the application.
Yeah, so I mean, 8 months ago, something like that, but since then, asphalt prices have gone up, and
Right.
that's why the bid came in higher than what the estimate was. That wasn't like the engineer's estimate based on the design, because that came in later on. So,
Okay. That's where we are. And I believe we are at 9B hangar lot 19 lease application.
Yeah, we have United Liquid Waste wanting to buy a hangar and start a lease with us. They're buying an existing hangar, not building a new one. And it's in the principal's name. I did a background check. There's absolutely no concerns with it. It's just something we bring here as an action item, requesting a motion and a second to approve a hangar lot 19 lease to United Liquid Waste.
Is it a company or what's Tracy?
Jason Tracy, it's in Jason's name.
So do we own the hangar or no?
No, we just own the lot, we just leased the lot.
So we're just leasing the lot for them?
Yeah, he's buying the
We
hangar.
own the land, they own the building on it.
Right,
Right.
like cell tower. Right.
All right, I'd entertain a motion then.
Also.
By John, is there a second? By Jeff. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Application's approved. Dodge County Utility Application Policy Revisions.
Okay, I would try to give you the quick explanation as to what this document is. You probably know.
You recommended this last time, right?
Yeah, and I sent it to you last week. The part I sent to you is the addendum. It's the Dodge County addendum. It makes it defines what Dodge County expects above and beyond the standard WCHA application or policy. So this says what we want here, and we went through, did some housekeeping and some upgrades to make it current. A couple months ago, we adjusted the fee schedule, and now this is just the language and the requirements, and we're bringing in standards. So if you have questions about anything individually, I can certainly address it. I don't want to go through it.
So either
You made a copy, you want a copy?
I read it online in the back of it.
It's a very effective, very necessary item, tool for us to have. And it's becoming more, we talked about this too when we adjusted the fees, it's becoming more and more of an issue with all of the broadband and the cabling that's being installed through our county right away.
Okay, let me ask you, when they redid the PEDs and then moved the PEDs, did we have to pay for the relocation? Why is that?
Well, Dodge County's pretty lucky in that regard. We have what's called a setback ordinance. And as soon as the towns have to adopt it, we can't, but as each town adopted it, then it covers all right-of-way, any existing utility in that right-of-way that needs to be moved for a highway improvement project needs to be moved at the utility's expense. Not every county has that. In many counties, they pay full price to have crews come out and move that stuff. But we're in pretty good shape here. We've gone to court on that a number of times and prevailed. We're very lucky that our forefathers back in the 50s did that. And this is a different document, but similar, it protects our interests. If somebody wants to put utilities in our right of way, they have to fill out an application, show us where they want it. They can't go in the shoulder, they can't go in the ditch bottom, they can't be 6 inches deep. It's gotta be back in the right of way as far as practical, and it's gotta be to standard depths. And if they deviate from that and don't follow their permit, and we hit it, or anybody hits it, it's on them. It protects our right of way if they wanna go across the road. If it's picture condition 5 or less, we'll let them do an open trench. But the restoration is 100% on them, and the perpetual maintenance, if whatever settles or sags, it's on them. So it's an important document, it's something we use very frequently. We give, I don't know, depending on the year, 50 to 80 permits a year, and they all have to comply with this.
All that.
And it includes cleanup
Yes.
too, right?
Yep.
Need a motion. There's
Move to approve.
a motion by Dale, second by John. Any other questions, discussion?
I'll be abstaining.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And one abstention.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's ready for signature.
Alrighty. And then we have parking restriction ordinance on, I believe it's County E, huh?
Yeah, this is the same, you guys have seen this before. This is in Hustisford along the lake, and this resolution covers this yellow area, basically the west side of Highway E, along, or the west side of Highway E, right by the lake there. They actually have signs up there today, but there's nothing in the ordinance to back up and enforce the signs. So the town wants to have no parking there. It makes sense based, especially right along the lake shore. It gets a little steep there.
This is right in town?
This is, I'll show you.
It has no on E, there's
It's
a-
right in here.
Oh, I see. Yeah, and the City Pub's right in here somewhere.
Yep, yeah, that's the yellow highlighted thing right here.
Right there.
That's correct.
So, basically the resolution here is to put something in the ordinances so those signs can be enforced. The blue area, I think, will be something where we're gonna paint the curb yellow so people can't park in that spot. I had showed you guys last time how it kind of creates a vision corner issue there. This resolution does not cover that. I think it's gonna have to be a separate resolution that we'll have maybe at the next meeting. But for today, this just covers that yellow section that's already signed.
And that's on both sides or just one side?
Just on the west side of the road.
And so was there no?
The west side is already no parking.
It's supposed to no parking.
Changes
But
the
it's
blue.
not
Can't be
enforceable.
enforced.
The blue would be no.
No.
The yellow is already, like you said, it's already got signs up there, but
Well,
like,
there's signs with no ordinance.
right,
so
so if someone were to get a ticket,
Okay.
they could fight it,
Yeah,
and they
so
win.
beware a dog when you don't have a dog.
Yeah, so that's what the town had asked us to look into mostly the blind spot, the blue area. But when I did the research, I found out that there's nothing enforcing those signs. So this lets those signs be enforceable, basically, is what the resolution is.
Okay, motion by Dale to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by John.
Was there any notification given to the people about any?
We already talked about this a few months ago. right?
Yeah.
This is from October, I think, October meeting I brought it up.
But the signs have been there as long as I've been here, so.
Signs have been there for years.
They just came
Yeah, but
past that.
I was wondering if, I mean, that business owner does a lot of business out of that bar, you know, and parking's an issue. I mean, if she has
They
a,
park on the west side of the road, and it's wider on the west side of the road.
There's a pedestrian lane on the west side that makes it much safer. for
There's
everybody.
actually a parking lane on the west side, or the east side, the bottom
East
side.
yeah.
The condition exists, this is just making it legitimate.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed?
no,
Motion carries. Next.
So could you back up
Sure.
1 minute? I was asked to give a quick update on the snow and ice budget balance. And we've had a very good run this fall. So today, as of today, the balance in snow and ice the 2022 budget is $656,742.40. That's good news.
That's good news.
That's good news. We're at December 8th already, and the forecast looks good once we get through tomorrow's event. We might end up in the black, and hopefully substantially in the black, and the money just carries over into our fund balance, so we have a good base there for what might come in weather next year. So, you know, we've not always been in that good shape here, and this year we are, and I'm glad to report that too.
Good deal. All right, and the next meeting, next year, huh?
Yeah, let's have the calendar on the wall.
Won't be till next year.
That one right here.
What date?
We talked about, we and the staff talked about maybe January 12th. But the first Thursday is the 5th.
It's no matter to me either way.
Yeah, and there was somebody on our staff asked if we could potentially do the 12th. There's something they're working on that we're trying better for the 12th. I apologize, I don't remember what it is.
12th, that's fair for me.
I think we would still have time if there's anything that needs to go to county board. I think that we should do it there.
Thing, but still sufficient time, just like we're doing with this.
Highway meeting, 4 P.M.
We wouldn't go to county board, but I don't think we're gonna get any.
So the 12th it is.
12th it is.
Okay. We'll meet here.
Yep.
When is the county board, is that on 20th?
Looks like
No, must be something, 17th.
17.
So technically, I would probably would get it on county board, but I
No,
don't
we
know where
couldn't,
it is.
I don't think we have anything.
Future agenda items.
What's going on with your roll call?
What's going on, executive committee talked about it. We talked about it on Tuesday or whatever it was, Monday, I guess Monday, whatever.
Why is this committee not talking about it? This
Part of the-
rural farm
well-
falls under highway committee.
Well, one of the things that I didn't know at executive is that, Human Services put $200,000 in their budget to contract out the house to foster kids, parents.
Who did they make that agreement with?
They put it in their budget, they budgeted $200,000 for that, expecting it was gonna happen.
Who gave them the inkling? Anybody here?
Nope.
I didn't. Somebody's overstepping their bounds.
Well, I think technically the county owns it, you know, I think
Right,
technically
but
Dodge
it's-
County owns it, so, you know.
But it's under highway, and this is a policy-making committee. We, as a committee, are in charge of that, to make suggestions, thoughts, ideas, and recommendations to the full body of the board. Not the other way around.
Yeah,
We hosted an open house out there for anybody and everybody to come and see it, probably a third of the county board did.
I just feel that the authority per se of this committee is being usurped by others, and it's not right.
Well, as I understand it, I wasn't there. I hope to be, but I couldn't. Executive committee met last week. Oh, no, it was Monday of this week. Monday of this week. And they discussed some options, but didn't decide on anything. So, you know, maybe addressing executive committee or county administrator when he returns, this would be in order. I know,
Well, I thought that, we were gonna talk about, the tool allowance stuff too, because, and I did talk to the administrator, and he agreed with me that if we have the funds available in this committee, we shouldn't have to take it to HR. not an HR decision. HR might have a policy, but we don't have a policy that anytime HR goes on the highway, you know, you're using the car, we don't have a policy they have to get permission from us, do they? Why do we have to get permission from us?
I'm not gonna.
Well, the administrator, I said,
Here's another question I've got. So why, when they title a vehicle, is it titled to a department, not to the county? So when it moves to one department to another department, they gotta have a new registration. It just seems like they're throwing money away doing that.
Yeah, I
well,
agree.
they should be registered under the county and that's it, as government.
Right.
It isn't though.
That's hit and miss too. A lot of it's just straight up Dodge County and some is highway department or whatever. That's a random age-old thing here too, but I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, 'cause that would be, I mean, that'd be worth looking into, because now we're talking about, which department was it, Land and Water?
Yeah, it's gonna cost me an extra $100
It's gonna get
registration.
one of the old retired squad cars,
Yeah,
so we're gonna have to re-register that?
yeah.
Yeah, that is a waste.
Why should we? Yeah, that is, I mean.
That's a very good point. There, that should be a policy. That should be a policy. Everything that gets registered should be just to Dodge County.
Right.
That would clean that up. I'll check on that here, make sure that's what we're doing. I think it is, but.
I jumped and jumped behind it. He was only gonna do that, so I beat him to the gun.
I will research tool allowance and have something for us to consider at our next meeting. I've also got a note here, I want to talk to the committee about the new state standard for striping, traffic striping, you know, the white stripe, has historically been 4 inches, they're going to 6 inches. I just got the notification 2 days ago. We do their painting, so it impacts us, and we may have to buy different equipment to get the wider stripe. They're willing to compensate us for that additional cost. That's gonna take more paint. But I want to research the new TCD. We may also be needing to make that change.
County and the county system.
Yeah. If that's the new standard, we're gonna need to.
Yeah, if we follow DOT standards, then we have to
So
follow
that's-
them.
that's
We
something
need the
we'll-
state to pay for the heads that we need.
Yeah.
Use them on our roads.
It's 50% more
That's
paint.
bonus, right? It's gonna significantly more paint and beads.
Right.
I gotta run.
Okay, all right, Dave.
Thank you, Dale. Thank you. So we'll have some information to consider at the next meeting on that as well.
Anything further? And we'll declare us adjourned at 6:26. Gentlemen?
Thank you all.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas.
So this will be our board meeting, but